So what do you normally do if you think you've discovered the problem and you know the steps to take to address those problems? Today in this episode, I'll be discussing steps that I took after I lost my 6 months old pregnancy. Steps that I believed were going to lead me to the solution I desired, or to lead me to places where I wouldn't have to face the same challenges I faced before. So welcome to the 11th episode of Walking Through Infertility. My name is Juliet Imo. In this channel, I discuss everything infertility. I try to create awareness both for the kind of issues that I face and the ones I did not face, just so that I will share this out to people who might be interested in it. So if you think this is something you need, kindly subscribe, like, send in your comments, ask your questions, share the link to other people who this might also benefit. Kindly do so. And so let's get into today's discussion. From the episode where I said my heart shattered when I lost, and I tried to describe the whole thing that led to me losing my 6 months old pregnancy, that I got through IVF, a very tedious journey of IVF. After that, I came to the very clean conclusion that if maybe I did not return back from the UK, the possibility of losing that pregnancy or losing the baby would have been none. So after I lost the baby on the 28th of April 2008, after like 1 month, I had a discussion with my husband. We agreed that we're going to go for another IVF. But one very thing we decided was, you're going to go for another IVF, Juliet, but the IVF, you have to do it outside this country as per the last one. But this time around, you're not going to come back. You will stay there, have the baby, just in case anything happens on the way. You have the medical facility and the personnel to ensure that you do not lose the baby. So to do that, and I didn't think I wanted to go to the UK and stay for a year without doing nothing. So we decided, since I'd resigned from my job due to the journey we started in 2007, I decided that the next thing to do was for me to go and study. So going to study, I started looking for a place to study. I got admission and relocated to the UK to do my master's. I had to settle in first, of course. So the first semester, I didn't do anything. The beginning of the next semester, I went to the hospital, Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, met the fertility doctor who was the head. Dr. Hamilton was his name, or rather is his name, I don't know. I'm sure he's still alive. Dr. Hamilton, and I started my treatment. Of course, I had to pay for that treatment. We started the treatment, everything was going very well. And I got my medical records from London, from the Harley Fertility Clinic, transferred it to ARI, and the doctor started the treatment. Everything went well as per usual. I had no problems. I had no problems with the medications. I had no problem with egg collection, and I had no problem with embryo. And so this is my second fresh IVF procedure. I can't remember the number of eggs we collected, but we collected quite some. I also remember that we had good embryos. They decided they were going to do a 2-day transfer, which they did. I started my 2 weeks waiting. So, and everything was going well. I was taking my progesterone suppository and progressing well. No problems, no issues, until 7 days post-embryo transfer, which would have been like day 21 of a normal menstrual cycle. I started spotting again. Remember the last cycle I had in Harley Street? I started spotting day 10 post embryo transfer. But this time around, I started spotting day 7 post embryo transfer. And of course, I got scared. I remembered my experience with my first IVF. So I didn't panic as much. I just believed that it was the same. Maybe this is my own method. Maybe this is my leg, or whatever. This is the way it works for me. So I didn't panic. I continued taking whatever the progesterone I was giving. I continued taking it. But then by the next day, which was day 8, I went into full-blown period. It was no longer spotting. I panicked. I called the hospital. They said I should continue putting my progesterone and test on day 14. Day 14. But it was no longer spotting. I was bleeding, normal menstrual cycle. It didn't even wait for me to get to the day 14 for me to test. I was on progesterone. Some people, they don't start bleeding as long as they're taking progesterone. I was on progesterone. By day 14, my period had come and gone. Of course, I did the test and it was negative. So I had cried my eyes out throughout the day, throughout the time the period was flowing. I just knew it's me. I knew it was my period by the time, but I still held on to that tiny thread of hope that just maybe. So that whole hope was shattered, broken by the time I tested on day 14 and the pregnancy test came out negative. So I was asked to come to see the doctor. We did a review, everything. Why? Nobody could tell me why I started bleeding on day 7. This was now my second fresh IVF. And no answers. I gave it some time. This was now 2009. I gave it some time. About 3 cycles, natural cycles came and went. And then I went back again to carry out another procedure. But now I was scared. This time around, I was scared. I didn't know what to expect, but I was scared. I was hopeful. I was like, okay. Through my fertility friends, I said, okay, there were things I needed to do. I started doing so many things, taking protein, increasing my protein intake, doing the hot water bottle massage, keeping the womb warm during egg collection, all those orthodox things. And you find online. I did all of these, and then I spoke to the doctor prior to starting the second procedure in AROI. I went to the doctor, we had a discussion, we talked at length at what could have gone wrong with me not even carrying the embryo up until the 14th day mark. In actual sense, what that meant was that if it was a natural cycle, it meant that I started bleeding on day 21, which is nowhere near the normal natural cycle. So we talked. He said the only thing he could check is to check the chromosomes of my of my eggs, and then that of my husband also. I think he eventually did that and said everything was okay with regards to that testing, that we could start whenever we're ready. So we agreed, we decided to start when we were ready for that particular procedure. The only thing I did differently this time around was that I requested that I change Gona-L for another type of another type of ovarian stimulating drugs, this one here. So I went for that one, and then also they upped my dosage. So it was a long protocol. I started my long protocol, did the down regulation, came back for testing, everything was fine. I was asked to start my stimulating injections. I started my stimulating drugs. But that particular night, I was woken up in from sleep by a burning sensation on my body. When I got up, I noticed I had hives, massive hives on my body. So I called the emergency line. They told me there was nothing they could do at that time, but I should watch it in the morning. I should come to the hospital. So I went back to the hospital. I told them that the only thing different I was doing was this new medication that I had not taken it before. Maybe my body was reacting to it. The fertility nurse said that she has not had that kind of she has not gotten that kind of reaction from any of their patients, but that since that this is the only new thing I had introduced to my body, that just maybe they would change it. So I switched back to Gona Elf instead of using this medication. I switched back to Gona Elf and continued with my medication. 8 days after I started stimulating, I went back to the hospital. They did a scan, also took my blood work to check everything was okay. I continued to day 10. I was given the trigger shot. I was given the trigger shot and told when to take it. I took that and then came back for my egg collection on when it was time. On the day of egg collection, everything went well. I think that particular time they got 16 eggs. All 16 eggs were okay. I was told that they were going to fertilize them and tell me what the result was, what the outcome was the next morning. I said, that's fine. I already knew the drill. So I went home, and then the next morning, I got a phone call from the hospital, from the embryologist. And then they told me, the embryologist said to me, Mrs. Imo, is this Juliet Imo? I said, yes, this is me. He said, oh, well, as you are aware, we got 16 eggs from you. After cleaning up, 14 were good enough to be used to be used. And then out of that 14, I'm sorry to tell you that none fertilized. I said, sorry, could you say that again? They said out of the 14 eggs that we injected, but again, this time I was ready to do ICSI, that out of the 14 eggs we injected, that we had 0 fertilization. That was shocking. As in, how? How is that even possible? I mean, if I had done IVF, I would have said maybe the sperm didn't swim to the egg. I would have said maybe for some reason the sperm didn't swim to the egg. But this particular time, we chose to do ICSI. This was where, in this kind of situation, the sperms are injected directly into the egg. So tell me, why would there be no fertilization? I was shocked, as in, if I still remember it, I mean, when I think about it now, the shock, and there's something I don't want to mention in this video because I don't know how people are going to take it, but there's something happened prior to me getting that call. I had a dream, and in the dream, it was as if the dream prepared me for this, but I don't want to go into details now because that's not really the crux of this matter right now. What I'm trying to let you know is that my third IVF treatment or fertility treatment was not successful because I didn't even get the embryo transferred. The eggs were not fertilized. I didn't get my eggs fertilized. And that was a first for me. I'd never heard about it before. And I'm like, what could have caused this? And we paid for this cycle. Third cycle now, zero baby. And it wasn't funny. Third fresh IVF, 1 frozen embryo, all paid from our pocket. And nothing to show for it. It wasn't funny at all. My heart was broken again. Again. Anyway, I took a break. I had to finish my master's, finish my master's, did my graduation, started to stay back again. And this time around, I said to God, I'm not going to pay for this IVF again. I'm in the UK. It should be paid for. What? So I started the process of trying to get the GP to give me approval to get money funding from the government to do IVF. They now told me it was not an easy process, but eventually, long story short, I got funding for one cycle, just one cycle. I had to write, I had to prove my case. I got funding for one cycle because according to them, I'd already done two previous cycles. They usually pay for three, but I had already done two previous cycles. Even though I had paid for those two myself, they said it was counted as the third cycle. I said, okay. So I shall say I got one cycle free. I said to God, this cycle that I got for free that you helped me pay for, it has to work. So I started sometime in 2010, this time around. I started that process. Everything went well. Process started well. Usual drama, no drama. I got eggs. Eggs were fertilized. Luckily, they fertilized. I told them to push it to day 5. They pushed it to day 5. I got blastocysts, good quality blastocysts, transferred into my womb again. And then day 5, after the transfer, I started spotting. And it went on to become full-blown period. That was it again. Yeah. 4 fresh IVFs, 1 frozen embryo, no baby. But the good thing about this one is that I had blastocysts. I had embryos that were frozen, blastocysts that were frozen. I think I had about 4 of them that were frozen this time around. And again, let me say one other thing. Prior to doing this, this particular test, I went to visit a doctor in London who does IVF with immunotherapy, or whatever. He passed me through certain processes. First of all, he had to give me lots of medication, according to him, to clean up the system. My period was sent to a lab in Greece to carry out a test to check if there was anything wrong internally in my womb. Because at that point, I was beginning to question why I was not able to carry, whether be it baby or embryos, in my womb. I was beginning to worry about that. So I needed to be sure that my womb was properly prepared before I went into another procedure. So apart from the fact that my period sample was sent to Greece, I also got my blood work sent to the US for them to test for NK factors, mother factors, and all that, to check if maybe I had elevated immune system that was probably seeing my embryos or babies as something that they needed to fight against. All the results came back. I started the procedure. I was asked to take 5 milligram of folic acid instead of the 4 microgram. I started 5 milligram of folic acid. Before that, I had to be placed on some cocktail of antibiotics to clean up the system, all prescribed by the doctor, Dr. Gorgi, I think that's his name, all prescribed by him. I had to take this cocktail of antibiotics for like a month plus. Started with Zitromax all the way to, even though, yes, my blood work came back to say I didn't have any infection or anything. Prior to doing IVF, you usually have to test for so many of sexually transmitted diseases. This is part of the procedure. So all of that had always been done, and I always came out clean, nothing wrong with me. But Dr. Gorgi's procedure or process involved doing a deeper cleanse just in case, according to him. The blood that was sent to Greece was supposed to check if maybe I have a history of chlamydia or something. That came out clean. So anyway, he still said he was still going to go ahead and do this cocktail of antibiotics. So I had Zitromax, I had doxycycline, I had Flagyl, and these were the cocktail of antibiotics he gave to me, and I took them for Zitromax. First dose was 500 milligrams, I think, or was it one? I can't remember again. Anyway, he gave me Zitromax, like I think I took 4 capsules at once. Then after that, I started the doxycycline and Flagyl or rather I took Flagyl for 1 week before I started detoxing. I think yes, I took Flagyl for 1 week, then I went to doxycycline for 3 weeks, then I ended up with Zitromax. So after all of this, I started all of this then before I started my IVF treatment with ARI. When I started my IVF treatment, he recommended I took intralipids, which was supposed to help calm the immune system or something. I was also placed on 75 milligram aspirin daily was the treatment started. I was also supposed to take Clezan, daily shots, and that was supposed to be through the life cycle of the pregnancy. And that I apart from my usual, it was a cocktail of medicine. Instead of my usual pessaries that I get from the hospital for progesterone, Dr. Goji also recommended I took the injectable progesterone. So I was having dual 2 dose. I was going to take 2 doses of progesterone, both the pessaries and the injection, and this was intramuscular injection. Anyway, so in my head of head, everything was going to be fine. Everything was going to be perfect this time around. So I started that. I started the medication, finished them, started my procedure with ARI, and everything went well. And that was, to an extent, I think that all of this helped me to get the first time this is my first time, apart from the very first IVF that I did, the first time I was going to have frozen embryo from Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, and they all went to blastocyst. So I had this transfer of blastocyst. The embryo, as at the day the blastocysts were being transferred, I think I had AA. They were perfect and healthy according to the embryologist rating. So you can imagine my shock that 5 days into post-transfer, I started bleeding again, and of course went on to have the full-blown period. So this is my journey again. And in my head, I'm like, what is this? Okay. I waited. I said, well, okay, I'm going to go for the frozen embryo transfer. I went on after the whole period, waited for some time, 2-3 months, and started the procedure for frozen embryo transfer. Frozen embryo transfer went well. This period now, maybe because of everything that I was taking, intralipids, Clezan, aspirin, 5 milligram folic acid, zinc, I had a cocktail of supplements that I was taking throughout this period. And then I did not bleed. 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, 14 days. There was no bleeding. I was sure I was on my way to having my pregnancy settled. On day 14, I joyfully got up to do my pregnancy test. So you can imagine my shock. You can imagine my shock that the test came out negative. The test came out negative. Again, 2 frozen embryo transfers, 4 fresh IVFs, nothing to show for it. Negative again. Now, what else am I supposed to do? Really? What have I not done? What have I not done? What process have I not taken? What step have I not taken as a human being to conceive? It was negative again. Of course, it broke my heart. Of course, I cried. Of course, I didn't know. I didn't have an answer anymore. I didn't know. So I looked up to heaven. I said, God, what is this? What's happening? How am I going to manage this? What's the story? What else is there for me to do? Is there anything I'm supposed to do that I've not done yet? Is there anything you want me to do that I haven't been doing? God, I need your help now. And I think I said something like, maybe I should stop doing IVF. Maybe IVF is not for me. Maybe this is not for me. I don't know. But anyway, this is a story of my 4 fresh IVFs and 2 frozen embryo transfers that I had nothing to show for. Nothing to show for it. So the question now is, what next? What else should I do? Should I continue staying in the UK and trying more cycles? Remember, I wasn't going to get any free funding anymore. What's next? I went back to the drawing board. I tried to make some more researches. What next to do? Anyway, we'll talk about that in the next episode. Thanks for staying with me. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of my journey, for learning from me. Once again, if there is anybody you think will benefit from what I am sharing here, please do share this link with the person. And if you have any question for me, please leave it in the comment section. I'll try to pick up. If you also have a story to share, whether you want to share it anonymously or you want to share it with me openly here on this channel, please reach out to me. I think we need to create more awareness. We need to tell people about this. We need to tell people about IVF. Let them understand that they're not alone. There are millions of people out there who are going through the same thing they're going through and still having hope that one day, just one day, their joy will be fulfilled. Thank you and have a beautiful day. Bye.